What's going on YouTube? Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be giving our complete and updated Regulation D tier list, our pre-World Championship Regulation D tier list, right? So Worlds is only about, I would say, 10 days away, at the time of the recording of this video. So, and now is the time to start prepping, right? If you're going, or you should have been prepping already. But what I always like to do, especially when there's time for like a really, really big tour, is just give a tier list update, especially in the beginning of the month, and just see where things are at the given moment and see how the meta has progressed since the first month of release, right? So what you see on your screen, for the sake of the video, is actually a bunch of what I call the D tier Pokemon, aka don't use or not great, just so that, for the sake of the video, I make it shorter. Otherwise, we're gonna have like a 2-hour video, and that's too long. Okay, now that being said, it makes sense, right? I don't think you need me to waste time in a video telling you why something like, I don't know, Greedent or this thing, another Pokemon here, I don't even know what this is. Electros is like not going to be used in VGC, right? So if you think one of your favorite mons is in the D tier, all right, and it should be somewhere else, feel free to comment and fight for their placement, okay? I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a bunch of comments, right? And arguing where some of these are placed. But also, I may move some of these up or down, at the end of the video, right? Just so that I can always give like a little bit of a final evaluation, right? But for that reason, again, just for the sake of time, all right, I already just dumped a bunch into the D tier, right? So yeah. Anyway, but as far as like the other tiers, so if this is your first time watching one of my tier list videos, what I like to do is I like to explain the tiers. So S tier is always what I say, the best of the best. All right, these are pretty much the Pokemon that you're going to see on 90% of your teams, especially like the super try-hard competitive teams, right? They're very, very good stats. They have very, very good abilities, good coverage moves, great signature moves all around, very, very splashable, can be played in multiple ways. They are the cream of the crop. That is your S tier. Then as you work your way down, then you have the A tier, right? Still what I call strong and consistent options, okay? Still good stats, still good ability, and then overall very, very good as far as like the glue to certain teams. Like they hold it together, right? Maybe they're like the tail end of an important core, okay? And just overall, great options to build your team around, right? Then if we go into the B tier, these are what I call just like, these are okay Pokemon. These are solid options. You can win a tournament with these Pokemon, but they generally have one thing holding them back, whether it's like a poor stat or, good stat but poor ability, or good stats, good ability, but not great moves, okay? Something of that sort, right? There's at least one or two things holding them back as far as like the A tier, and then overall maybe the A tier and S tier Pokemon do the same job that the B tier does, just better, right? Then we have the C tier, which I call the niche tier. These are Pokemon that are just pretty good on one kind of team only, right? You won't see them outside of any of these teams, right? Just because they only have one job and they can only do that one job relatively well, and that's it, right? So a very, very classic example is something like, where is it? I saw it here. Something like Articuno, right? Articuno has, tournament results, of course, which is good, right? Articuno is finally viable in VGC, but it's only really good on those Abomasnow teams, right? So let me just go ahead and find Abomasnow down here. Oh my goodness, this is like a huge list here, and I can't even find the Abomasnow. Oh, there you are. Thank God I found it early, right? So like these two, they're good, but like they're only good when they're paired together. That in that sense, right? All right, I shouldn't say that about Abomasnow, but like again, Articuno is really only good when it's on those snow teams. Outside of the snow teams, you're not going to see an Articuno, right? So that's what we mean by the niche tier. And then the D, as I said, it's the not good, don't use tier. These are Pokemon that, you wouldn't even know they're in the game unless like maybe somebody mentioned it, or they just don't have any results to their name. They have poor stats, just overall not great as far as like, doubles are concerned, right? Singles, different story, right? But this is of course strictly doubles VGC, right? But again, that's the whole idea behind the tiers. So now let's go ahead and get started, because we still got a lot of Pokemon to go through, right? It's still going to be somewhat of a long video, but I feel like it's still worth it and discussing, just because, Worlds is, coming up. All right, so let's get onto it. Okay, so let's start here with Charizard. So, Charizard has seen better days. in Sword and Shield, you know, from Dynamax, Gigantamax, whatever you want to call it. But nowadays, without it, it's pretty much just a Choice Scarf bot, you know, with Heat Wave and the Sun. And, excuse me, it did have that one result on, you know, Colding Light's team. So there's that. But other than that, you're not going to see it outside of a Sun team with Torkoal. And it's very hard to use another item besides the Scarf set, right? I think it's important for it. So it does get a C tier for that. You know, it does have that one niche. Raichu, more or less the same thing, right? It would be better if Aleki was more prominent in the format. But Aleki is not as prominent in the format as we originally thought it would be. So there's not as much reason to use it. But that being said, you know, Raichu is still a good fast fake out user. Nuzzle, Eerie Impulse, Volt Switch, decent pivoter. So you have, you know, some options with it, but you'd have to give me a good reason to use Raichu over something else. But I did see it on one team that did do well in some tour, right? So other than that, you know, I can say Raichu, all right, it's got a niche, right? But I don't know if I can justify it over like some of these other options. Alolan Persian is another one. Again, another one in the niche tier. You know, Fake Out, Parting Shot, Icy Wind, okay? You know, Foul Play. It also gets Fake Tears, right? This is a good support Pokemon if someone's willing to explore it. Base 115 speed. You're faster than the Genies, right? Just in terms of raw speed, of course. So you got a couple things going for you, all right? But it just hasn't found its way into the meta relevance. But that's only because it hasn't been explored. I feel like if someone were to explore it, it could actually, you know, have a niche on some team, right? Arcanine and the other one, the Hisuian Arcanine. I think both of these are still pretty good. I'm going to put them in the B tier. Okay. You know, Arcanine normally would be in the either A or S tier, depending on the format. But nowadays in Regulation D, Landorus has taken over as the dominant Intimidate user. But that being said, there are some teams, again, where, you know, Landorus is not as ideal as far as like having an Arcanine is concerned. Because again, not only do you get Intimidate, you get Snarl support, you get Will-O-Wisp, you do get Extreme Speed with the Chien-Pao combination. All right, you got that going for you. You can always do an Assault Vest set. So in that sense, Arcanine is still a pretty good Pokemon to use. And then the Hisuian variant, you have a lot more 4x weaknesses, but you are stronger. You're a little bit slower. Okay, but that being said, you hit harder. But I think this one is much better when it has something like Gastrodon on the team, right? So, you know, because Gastrodon is able to help it out against the Urshifu, right? So outside of it, it's still okay with the Choice Band set. Even the Assault Vest set is still pretty good. But other than that, I think, you know, B tier is the appropriate placement for both of these Arcanines. And that being said, let's keep it within the Gen 1. Let's go ahead and just take Gyarados here, you know, because Gyarados and Arcanine were the premier intimidators when, you know, Scarlet and Violet came out. And I'm going to put Gyarados again here in the B tier. Still a very good option. You know, it still gets Thunder Wave. It gets Taunt. Taunt is very useful against Amoonguss setup, Gudra setup. You can intimidate Dondozo, which is slowly rising again in the meta. You can intimidate other physical attackers. You wall the Urshifu relatively well, especially with a Rocky Helmet set. Because, you know, you resist the water and the fighting move. So in that sense, it's in a pretty good niche. And in fact, I like it more than an Arcanine, for example. And Gyarados is, you know, starting to top some of these tours as of late. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised down the line if you can even bump this up into the A tier. But for now, I think, again, B tier option is correct along with the Arcanine here. All right, all these slow bros here. All right, this one and even this one. They're all... I think I even put two of them in the D tier somewhere, which I can't even find at the moment. But that being said, again, you know, good bulky Trick Room setters. But there's better Trick Room setters that do the same thing that these guys can do, but better. And they do more damage, right? There's still Hatterene, there's still Cresselia, there's still Armarouge, even Indeedee. These are all Pokemon that can do the job that these two can do, but better. Okay, so I don't think they're like not good, but, you know, at the same time, I don't think, you know, you can necessarily justify using them over, you know, some of these other Trick Room setters, as I just mentioned, right? The Alolan Muck is basically the new Chansey, right? You know, it's got the minimized shenanigans, so I'm not going to say anything more than that and just say that, hey, this is your new Chansey, all right? If you like it, great, go for it. Then after that, oh, these two. All right, the Tauruses, again, but I don't, I feel like Yeah, I mean, Fluttermane is just too good right now and running around. I don't know. I don't think they're bad. Again, I just think, but yeah, they do have Intimidate going for it, so that's okay. But the Gyarados and Arcanine are at least one tier above these two, right? And the fighting typing actually kind of ruins it at the moment. But you still get some good damage dealers in both of these mons, right? But at the same time, you have better Intimidate options. The Articuno, again, another C tier option. Again, you get Tailwind, you get Trick Room. Freezing Glare is a pretty cool move, I would say. Decent special attacker. Competitive is a nice ability on certain Pokemon, of course. But that being said, I just don't think it offers enough besides those two things that I just mentioned. And Psychic Flying just isn't the greatest typing. A lot of weaknesses. Yes, you have Terrestrialization, but I don't think this is the format at the moment for Galarian Articuno. But it's a cool mon to use. Zapdos, on the other hand, all right, this one, I like it in the A tier, right? Strong and consistent. You can build around Zapdos. We did it in regulation, we did it in July. People have taken our Zapdos tour. They've done well on the ladder. I think one guy even top cut a tour with it. So, and then Zapdos overall has also, a bunch of results overall. It's really good with the Fire, Water, Grass cores. And then at the same time, bulky Rocky Helmet sets are really nice. And then Static is a very nice timely ability if you can get it off against some of these physical attackers where you can just paralyze them. Zapdos also gets Tailwind now in this generation, of course, which is really good for speed control. And then overall, again, you can EV this to survive a Chien-Pao Ice Spinner. So as long as you can survive that, you got something going for you. So Zapdos also very good into Urshifu. Your flying moves great into Rillaboom and Amoonguss. Okay, you have ground immunity, which is great, against Ursaluna and some of these other ground types. So you got a lot going for you if you're Zapdos. A tier. This one, all right. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna put it in the C tier. Defiant's pretty cool, but that fighting ability, not great. All right, that fighting typing, not so great. Just gets outsped by a lot of different things, and just overall doesn't really give me enough, right? Besides that strong physical damage dealer, I have plenty of physical damage dealers, right? If anything, I can use King Gambit, and that's a much better option than the Zapdos. The Moltres, the regular Moltres, again, with Urshifu running around, you can do something against Rillaboom and Amoonguss, I guess. I mean, if you really needed a fire type, just use Heatran or even like the Arcanine. I don't know what niche you would find a Moltres for. I'm almost going to put it in the don't use tier, but it's not terrible. It's okay. This one is my favorite, of course. We're going to put this in the A tier without a doubt. I am not biased at all. Okay? Just like Zapdos, it gets Tailwind. Nasty Plot, you can sweep teams. Berserk ability is very good. Your opponent has to be cautious in how they deal damage to the Moltres. Otherwise, they're just going to activate Berserk and actually just, what we call beat themselves, right? Because if you just keep the Moltres out of Berserk range, just chip it just enough to keep it out, and then second turn KO it, then you're in a good spot, right? But easier said than done, right? And we built a Moltres team on the channel where a few people have, either won a tournament, got second place, or a bunch of top cuts. That's one of the best regulation teams I ever made. And Moltres is overall really good damage dealer against, Cresselia. You're a dark type, of course. I understand Terrestrialization from Terra Fairy is a thing for Crest, but if it can't, you're in a good spot. Ground immunity again, and the Urshifu, you can do something against it. The Rillaboom, the Amoonguss, and if you're a flying type, you've got something going for you. Okay, I just want to say that. You can even take advantage of Sucker Punch and Snarl sets. Even Assault Vest Moltres has been an interesting idea for that matter. You do have to pick if you want to go between Tailwind or Protect. I think it's a little bit tricky to run both, even though we did run both. Not Tailwind, Protect. Tailwind or Nasty Plot, right? Because you need Protect, right? But I'll leave that discussion for another time. But again, Moltres, a very, very good option as far as what it can do against a lot of different things within the meta. I think it's definitely an A tier without a doubt. Dragonite, here we go. Of course, we're putting it in the S tier along with its good friend Chien-Pao. Might as well, right? They're like two peas in a pod. If I can find Chien-Pao, there we are. Here's the Chien-Pao. So, this is how the format started, right? Dragonite, Chien-Pao, they were here. Everyone said, okay, we got to plan against this. E-Speed, Sword of Ruin. This was also a thing in the previous format, right? But it's even more prevalent now because you're adding Urshifu to the mix, right? So again, with Dragonite, nothing else needs to be said. Same thing with Chien-Pao. They reduce defenses. Dragonite just goes for E-Speed. Hence the reason why some of these other Pokemon are rising to deny priority moves, which we'll get to in a second. But Aerial Ace is very good. You also have a bunch of other moves you can use, like Iron Head, Low Kick, Low Sweep, and then Chien-Pao. A lot of Chien-Paos are going Adamant now with Focus Sash just because they're trying to, ruin some damage counts against some of these players that are calcing for like Jolly Chien-Pao and Adamant Dragonite double up. But now if you just go Adamant Chien-Pao, you can kind of ruin those calcs a little bit, especially because they understand that Fluttermanes are going slower, bulkier, because they need to if they want to survive Sucker Punch / Ice Spinner, right? So very, very oppressive, this format. Of course, it's going to be in the S tier. This one, Hisuian Typhlosion, is a good Pokemon to use on a hyper offensive team. I think Eruption's kind of fun. I think it's solid, and it's a fun team to use if you want to use it. That being said, I do think the Regidrago stuff is the better option to try and use as far as like, the hyper offensive, full HP move. So in that sense, yeah, I might even bump this down into like the C tier, because I know it's like fun to use, but I don't know if I wanted to. You know what? I'm gonna put it in the C tier, right? I think Regidrago is just a better Pokemon to use if you want to do that kind of thing, as well as Fluttermane for a Ghost type. And then if you really wanted a Fire type, again, you have other choices, but still a good mon to use. Azumarill, I think Azumarill is still a pretty good Pokemon, I would say. I'm gonna put it in the B tier. Again, the Fairy typing, strong Fairy move against a lot of these Dark types, especially like Chien-Pao. Also can be paired with Chien-Pao. Had some success on Rain teams. Hasn't really been seen as much this format as in the previous format, but it's still a pretty good option if someone wants to re-explore that route with the Azumarill. Jumpluff, pretty good on those Sun teams, but that's really all you might find it on. Tailwind is really good, of course, with the Chlorophyll stuff, but you have better options with the Lilligant, especially the Hisuian Lilligant, I would say. But yeah, Jumpluff's still a good Pokemon. This Quagsire you don't want to use. The Clodsire, again, our good friend, Ploppy did relatively well with it. He got featured on Aaron Zhang's channel. It has that niche against Urshifu, of course. So in that sense, and it's also pretty bulky. So we'll give it its just desserts. We'll put it in the niche tier, but that's really all we can give it, right? Murkrow, again, good prankster, Tailwind user. I think it's in the B tier now these days, as opposed to like previously in the A tier. You still get Tailwind, you still get Sunny Day, you get Quash, you get Haze, which I think is going to be explored a little bit more because Dondozo is rising slowly again. All right, so for that reason, I think B tier is appropriate for this Murkrow. The other prankster users are a little bit better, but it does offer a few other tools that the other prankster Pokemon does not offer. So we have to give it its just desserts there. Oh, here are the other two Slowbros. All right, so here we go. I don't know how they got separated. I think they did it by like generation or something. But yeah, anyway. Scizor, C tier to me. It's always been a relatively okay Pokemon. You can pin the Fluttermane slot, of course, with Bullet Punch. But other than that, what else are you really doing? Okay, I feel like I can pin the Fluttermane slot with something else and still offer a team, a couple other tools. So, you can run close combat, you can run U-turn, you can run a Swords Dance set. But these are all things that I can find elsewhere, right? I don't necessarily need to use Scizor for that kind of job, but it's still a good Pokemon to use. It has some success in Rain teams. Pretty good with Chien-Pao especially, right? Strong priority move with Bullet Punch. I think Scizor's a pretty good Pokemon, but again, I think Heatran is the premier Steel type to use, along with a few others. Tyranitar and Pelipper. So your other two Weather Setters and Torkoal, right? Well, we'll get to Torkoal in a second, but man, I think this is Tyranitar's worst format, to be honest, right? You almost haven't seen it at all in Regulation D. It was really good in A and B, and also pretty good in C, but nowadays, with Urshifu, it's funny enough, before Urshifu was released in Sword and Shield, Tyranitar was a very good Pokemon and was used a lot. you know, Series 5 and prior. But once Series 7 came out and Urshifu was released, Tyranitar died. It became extinct. The 4 times weakness is just too much. And then, you know, of course, Surging Strikes. Now, again, that being said, you can always Terastallize it, which is what brought Tyranitar back to relevance in Scarlet and Violet. Of course, it's a great Assault Vest user. You know, it's really good. And of course, you know, again, taking away weather from other opponents again. And then it's very bulky. You know, you get a +1 Spit F by itself. Terra Flying, Assault Vest sets are very, very good. Rock Slide spam for flinches. Great into Dragonite and Qianpao to an extent, right? Because they're both weak to it. So Tyranitar can be, you know, interesting to use. It's just hard to get around the Urshifu and the Fluttermane, Iron Hands. There's just too much around that do well against it, that at the moment, I think it's just like a C tier, right? Now, that being said, a few hours ago, I did see a team that got like, you know, top 100 on the ladder from, you know, July with a Tyranitar Sand team. So I guess there is maybe a niche for it that has finally been explored, but prior to that, it just hasn't found its way just yet. Pelipper. So Pelipper, you know, in a much better place than Tyranitar. I think it's pretty good, you know, as far as like these rain teams. It's really good with Basculegion. In fact, let me go ahead and grab Basculegion right now. Except Basculegion is going to be slightly... Do I want to put it in like the A tier? Well, first of all, I have to find it. Where are you, Basculegion? I know you're in the newer gen, right? So I got to find you here. All right. Yeah, I'm just blind. I don't know where it is. Oh, here you are. Here's the Basculegion. All right, so this thing, I want to put it in the B tier as well. I feel like I can put both of these in the A tier. Like, it's hard to separate these two, right? Because wherever you find a Basculegion, you're gonna find a Pelipper. Basculegion is a very good Pokemon. Last Respects, Life Orb set, Swift Swim, very strong. Ghost type, you can't E-speed this thing. All right, you can outspeed the entire format because, you know, you have the rain going for you. Last Respects is a very good late game move, and then you also have just like Wave Crash in general. You also have Adaptability, which has been used outside of the rain. I think it's a good Pokemon. I don't know if I can put it in the A tier, but I can definitely put it in the high B tier along with Pelipper. So you know what? I'm just gonna move these boys up here. And then from here, all right. Ooh, Gardevoir. Yeah, no, don't use it. Not this format. Breloom, fast Spore user, but I haven't seen any whiff of it in Regulation D, whereas like at least in Regulation A, people tried it. But yeah, I don't even know if I can say niche. I'm just gonna say don't use. I'm just gonna say don't use. Hariyama, on the other hand, you know, one can argue it's the better Flame Orb user than Ursaluna. You know, you still get Fake Out, of course. And then at the same time, you're very good in Trick Room. So you got a niche for it. I think the other Iron Hands is better, but I know our boy Tommy has been using this a little bit, and he's done well with it. And as far as like other people are concerned, they've also used it. So that being said, Sableye, another decent prankster user. I think B tier is appropriate. Or is it C? No, I think C tier is a little bit better. I think Murko's a better prankster user than Sableye at the moment. You get Will-O-Wisp, you get Quash, you get Fake Out. But other than that, not much else. All right, I feel like Murko can do that job, and then it has more tools. So I put Murko above the Sableye. All right, Torkoal, definitely A tier. It powers up a lot of these Sun teams. It enables Fluttermane with Photosynthesis, and it enables Roaring Moon. And then at the same time, not only are you able to make your allies stronger, you yourself are a great offensive threat in Trick Room because you are the fastest thing in Trick Room. You click Eruption, things melt. So you have that going for you. You know, good Pokemon to consider using if you want to use like a hard Trick Room team. You can build around it. Good A tier Pokemon. Enough said. Salamence. I am a huge believer in Salamence. People are just not willing to explore it. Here's your hot take. It's a B tier Pokemon. Why? Think about it. It's a dragon type and it's a flying type. So you already resist Urshifu, the water surging strikes, and you resist close combat, the fighting move. That already makes you above the D tier, right? And then at the same time, you can make it bulky with a Rocky Helmet set. We did that in Series 10 in Sword and Shield, and that's what got us on the channel on Aaron Zhang's, Cybertron VGC's channel back then when we featured a bulky Salamence set. But at the same time, now you also get access to Tailwind this generation, right? So you can make teams faster. You have a niche in rain teams because you can click Tailwind, you can click Hurricane, and then you can also click Hydro Pump. So you have that going for you. Dual Wing Beat is great against Sash Pokemon, good against Rillaboom, good against Amoonguss, good against Terra Grass Heatran, and then you also can do like Terra Steel Iron Head, where now you have some niche against a Fluttermane. And of course, again, being in the flying type, you have ground immunity, which I think is very, very good. That being said, you know, Chenpao is still running around, Fluttermane is still running around. It holds it back a little bit, but still B tier, I feel like is still good for it at the moment. Staraptor, all right, Final Gambit user, Intimidate, niche tier. Okay, World Champion Pachirisu. I always say a World Champion Pachirisu always goes in the niche tier. I always have to respect it just because it has a ring, whereas some of these guys don't have a ring. So because of that, yeah. By the way, we put Gastrodon over here because we like the pink one, and this is where like I lose 50 followers already right off the top of my head. All right, Gastrodon's a good Pokemon. All right, am I gonna put it in the A tier? I am gonna put it in the A tier. Oh, that's the B tier. I'm gonna put it right here. Yeah, man, Gastrodon is like, again, it's a very, very good Urshifu counter, right? Because of the ability Water Drain, right? We already know it can do that. That being said, you know, you still have good support moves like Yawn. You have Longevity with Recover. You can do, you know, just force opponents out of position with that Yawn move, right? So you can do a little bit more than that. But again, like I said, Rillaboom is a thing this format. Am I gonna really put this thing in the A tier? Let me think about this. I think B tier is actually better. I don't think it's as like quote unquote splashable as like some of these other A tier options that we're gonna put. I think within this B tier is actually more appropriate, right? You're also really good against some of these rain teams like Back, Skill Legion, Pelipper stuff. So you got a lot going for you if you are a Gastrodon. And again, you have ground coverage along with Ice Beam, right? Which is really good against the Genies. So, you know, think Landers, think Tornadus. I think it's a good Pokemon. Drifblim, you get Tailwind, you get Trick Room, you get the Aftermath thing. That's it. C tier. Bronzong is always going to find some way or form, you know, within the format. It found its way late in the previous format. But again, bulky Trick Room setter. You get ground immunity. You get Gyro Ball pressure against Fluttermane. Iron Defense Body Press against a lot of different options. Unfortunately, you know, there are more things that can deal with the Bronzong this time around. You know, Cresselia is just a better Trick Room option to have as far as like a Levitate Pokemon. So Cresselia can do the same job that Bronzong can do, just better in that sense. Now, again, the body press stuff is something that separates the Bronzong from the Cresselia. So if you're willing to explore that route, then go for it. But like the healing is just too good that comes from the Cresselia. I don't know why you would use a Bronzong over something like a Cresselia, you know, in that sense. Spiritomb, I don't know, man. I mean, Infestation, yes, I understand it. You know, somewhat bulky. Does it matter? I don't think so. I think it goes into D tier. Garchomp, B tier, very good Pokemon. You know, just needs to be explored a little bit more. Great with like Zapdos. Great on these Tornadus teams, right? You click Tailwind, you click Earthquake, things die, right? Or things have to switch. You know, it's always going to be, you know, around. It has a great speed tier because you're faster than Chi-Yu. And as long as you're faster than that thing, you have a spot in the meta, I always like to say. So yeah, but it's not as good as it once was because, you know, again, there are just more things that can deal with it. But, you know, Rough Skin, pretty good into Urshifu. The problem is it's neutral damage. It's not resistant, so it's still going to do a good chunk into Garchomp. So you just have to be aware of that. But other than that, it's a pretty decent option, I would say. All right, Hippowdon, on the other hand, you know, just like Tyranitar, it's a niche option. Could be good, but, you know, just at the moment, it just hasn't really found a place at the given point in time. I did see one time a Toxicroak did win a tour, or at least top cut, right? And it does have that niche, you know, dry skin is enough to put it in the niche tier, you know, because of the Urshifu stuff, along with, you know, the sun, weather, you know, where it can heal. But other than that, sure, it's got poison move against Terra Fairy options, and, you know, even against Fluttermane. So I'm willing to give it a niche tier. All right, Weavile. Magnezone and then Jolade here. I feel like these are all right. Magnezone, unfortunately, you're going here and the don't use toward the Weavile. I mean, fast fake out user, but other than that, do you really do anything else? Nah, man, I don't think so. I think you're going here. Jolade, on the other hand, Sharpness, Sacred Sword, very, very useful. You know, you can set Trick Room. Again, it's great against Dondozo, which again slowly is rising, so we'll give you that niche. The Rotoms, again, you know, very good in like regulation A/B stuff. I'm gonna say Rotom Heat and the Wash are like, again, just in the niche tier. I don't know if they're that good this time around. Like they're not terrible by any means, right? I think they're way better than this tier. So yeah, in that sense, I'll just give it like a low C tier. Like these guys can still go for Will-O-Wisp. You know, they can do something a little. All right, they're not like terrible, but they're just way better options if you need a fire type or a water type. All right, Heatran. Finally, we get to another S tier Pokemon. You know, this thing without Dynamax is a monster. All right, the Fire Steel is really good against Fluttermane. First of all, of course, it's got great special attack damage. You know, base 135 is really, really good. Great bulk, 106 defenses. Very, very good. A bit middling of a speed tier, but you don't really care. You know, still very good on those Tailwind teams. Also, it runs Substitute now, you know, which is great against stalling Trick Room teams. So, in that sense, you know, Heatran is very useful in the sense that you can't really break this up, or at least it's hard to break. And then now you can go for Terra Grass, you know, to avoid the Urshifu shenanigans, and then deal damage right back against it. So, in that sense, Heatran, along with, you know, just being a very you fill two of your roles. If you need a Fire, Water, Grass, Dragon, Fairy, Steel Core, Heatran gives you 1-1 in both of those, so you get to save yourself a slot. All right, but a lot of the Heatrans nowadays are giving up the Steel move just because they either run the Substitute, or they're running Terra Blast, or they're running Earth Power, right, along with the Heat Wave. So in that sense, the Heatran sets can vary, right, along with the item. Typically, Leftovers is the more popular item. There are some seldomly used Life Orb, Assault Vest sets, which are two very, very good items for it. But, you know, it's very bulky. It walls, not necessarily walls. It does well against like Chiyu. You know, it's forced to click only a dark move against it. All right. You can pressure Rillabooms, right? The only thing you have to watch out for is Landorus. But again, like I said, Terra Grass is very, very good. Cresselia, without a doubt, S tier. You know, this is one of the premier options that we're getting. Or have gotten, you know, in July. The bulkiest Trick Room setter we're going to use at the moment. It has Levitate. It's a great partner with Ursaluna. It's actually what makes Ursaluna very good. All right, it couldn't have asked for a better partner. You get access to Lunar Blessing now, which can heal your allies, and also, you know, heal status. You get moves like Ally Switch. You get moves like Icy Wind for, you know, more speed control besides Trick Room. Terra Fairy Moonblast can deal a decent chunk into the Urshifu. What else can you do? Stored Power, Calm Mind sets have been used a little bit, but its best role is just a bulky Trick Room setter to be able to enable the Ursaluna or some other Trick Room setter like an Iron Hands or a Torkoal for that matter. Very, very good Pokemon. S tier. Alright, this one, D tier, but this one, the Hazard one, the C tier niche, again, you'd have to give me a very good reason to use this over Urshifu. I understand it can set hazards, but that's what puts it in the niche tier. That's what you can do as opposed to the Urshifu. You can set hazards, but it misses so much, right? It just, I just wish it wasn't inaccurate, right? But, you know, I don't make these Pokemon, I just play them, right? Don't quote me on that one. All right, this Lilligant is now in the C tier. You don't necessarily need to use this one anymore because now you have this one, which is very, very good. I think, you know, the speed tier is what really takes these Sun teams to the top. A lot of Fluttermanes EV themselves to outspeed the Lilligant because, you know, they don't want to lose to it or get outsped by, you know, Sleep Powder shenanigans. So in that sense, pretty good. You get close combat. It's a decent physical attacker. You still get the same stuff the other Lilligants that, you know, with Sleep Powder after you. And now you get Leaf Blade, which is, you know, much better in my opinion over something like Leaf Storm. So you got that going for you. I say you're a good B tier option on those Sun teams. Okay, Crocodile. Dark ground type. Fluttermane's around, Urshifu's around. This ain't it. This one, Hisui and Zoroark could be good. I think it needs to be explored more. Normal Ghost is excellent. The Illusion Shenanigans is quite funny. Bitter Malice is funny. It has some placements on some teams. It really makes your opponent guess. And for that, I put it in the niche tier. Gothitelle can be a good Pokemon. You know, again, trapping along with Fake Out and Trick Room and Taunt and Perish Song can be good. It hasn't been explored as much or used as much this format because I think things are just more offensive. Things have more Taunt and things are more likely to double into Gothitelle. So, you know, it has struggled a little bit, but it's still a decent option in the C tier. Amoonguss, all right, here we go. It's always going to be in the S tier. Like, anytime you have VGC, Amoonguss is always S tier since the beginning of time. It's too good. It's your Trick Room balancer, right? It gives you something to play in Trick Room. You spore things to sleep. You redirect things. You protect your ally. You can heal it with Pollen Puff. And now you also have a niche against Dondozo because of Clear Smog. You know, it's just a very, very good bulky cleric Pokemon that does the job it needs to do. There's no one like the Amoonguss S tier without a doubt. We already know what this thing can do. All right, this Braviary you can just put in the don't use tier. Hydreigon, same thing. Like, I feel like it could be used, but it's just not it. I don't know if it's like bad, but is there a niche? It does get Tailwind. Does get Levitate, so you get some. Yeah, I'll give it like a low C tier. Volcarona, all right. Volcarona is an A tier, right? I said this before in one of my other videos. Yeah, man, Volcarona, dude, this thing goes crazy. If you just look at its set, like, let me just bring it back up here. Like, if I go into Showdown here, if I go Volcarona, okay, first of all, you know, base 135 special attack stat. That's already the same as Fluttermane, right? 100 speed, still very good. Good speed tier. And then 105 speed depth. Excellent. And then now you also have 85 HP and then 65 defense. Not terrible, right? So then you also get stuff like, you know, Fiery Dance, Quiver Dance. If this thing even gets one Quiver Dance off and of course Terra Grass, which is useful against Urshifu, this thing is going to sweep, especially with like Giga Drain. Like, Urshifu is in trouble, right? Quiver Dance, Giga Drain into Ursh is just bad news, right? And then at the same time, you can also run some of these like Rocky Helmet bulky sets, so you can deal chip damage and have the chance to burn, right? And then at the same time, you know, if you're afraid of like Ice Spinner from like Chien-Pao, and then Dragonite E-Speed, Volcarona can really do a number on those teams just because of this ability and the item that you can have, Rocky Helmet. And then if you even let it set up with Quiver Dance, if this has either Heat Wave or Fiery Dance, it's up to the user. You know, Volcarona can sweep. Volcarona can sweep. All right, it has some good results in some tours already, and it just needs people to keep exploring it and using it more. But without a doubt, an A-tier Pokemon. All right, don't use this version of Tornadus. This one, although it has declined, it's still within this S tier. You know, the premier prankster Pokemon of Regulation D. Tailwind, Rain Dance to enable the Urshifu to do a bunch of damage. Also good against some of these Sun teams. Protects the Rillaboom, protects Terra Grass, Heatran, and it makes your, you know, Bleak Wind Storm 100% accurate. You're very fast. You can EV it to make it bulky to survive. Most of the time, it has Terra Ghost. But you'll always see, you know, Tornadus along with like Chien-Pao, Dragonite, Heatran, and then even like a Fluttermane with the Amoonguss in the back end, right? That's like a very standard Regulation D team. This is also like a Regulation D team almost, right? It's just missing like the Urshifu, which is coming up at some point. All right, this one goes in the A tier, and this one also goes, I think it's also in the B tier. I'm gonna put it next to the Basculegion Pelipper combo. So now I'll explain both. Another good prankster Pokemon. Thunder Wave is very good. You know, it's like the counterpart to Tailwind. Along with Scary Face, you also get Eerie Impulse, which is why I say this is like better than Raichu, just because you have a prankster Eerie Impulse. So you can really neuter those Fluttermanes to no end. And again, it's priority, right? And then you get Taunt, you get Thunderbolt for Urshifu, you can run a Citrus Berry or a Rocky Helmet set. You know, it's a very, very good option to have on your team. You'll see it most often on like some of these double genie teams, you know, with Landers. It's a quite good mon, and it can support your own Fluttermane and Landers relatively well. Now, the other one is pretty much only really seen on those Basque Legion Pelipper teams. Either you run a Choice Spec set or you run a Assault Vest set like the one that we had. But it's a good mon. Wild Bolt Storm does a lot of damage, especially if it has choice specs. Terra Blast, Terra Flying is very good, or Terra Water if you're on a rain team. Grass Knot for the tech, all right? And then you also get Snarl if you're an Assault Vest set. You know, it has some use. I don't think it's as good as some of the other genies, but it's definitely like not bad. I think it's definitely within the B tier. This one, same thing, also needs to be explored a little bit more. I don't know where I want to put this. I think it's still like okay. It's very niche. You would have to give me a good reason to run it over something like the other Landers. Like give me one good reason why I need this over the other one, right? Well, this one's a special attacker and I need a special attacker. I can find a bunch of other special attackers that can do whatever job you want the Landers do, but better. But that being said, Sheer Force Life Orb does a lot of damage, and you can do well on some of those rain teams, you know, just because it makes your signature move 100% accurate. And the fact that you have a 101 speed stat makes you faster than Chiyu by 1 point, and that's the main selling point that puts it in the C tier. If this thing was slower, I would just say don't use it. All right, Landers, man. Dude, I want to put in the S tier. I think it's very, very good, but I think, yeah, I'm putting in the S tier. Landers, you know, again, someone questioned me in my other video, like, I'm surprised to see Landers so high. That was like a month ago. I was surprised why that was questioned. Landers has done well. It's a great Intimidate option. You could do an Assault Vest bulky set, you know, with U-Turn and Rock Tomb for speed control. You can make it aggressive with a Choice Band set. You can do a Scarf set where you can outspeed Fluttermane and then just pivot in and out and cycle Intimidates. Really good against Ursaluna because, you know, you have ground immunity. And then at the same time, it pairs well with the Fluttermane because, you know, Fluttermane struggles against some of the steel types, and then Landers being ground tech can do well against it. And does relatively well on some of these double genie teams, and can even do well on some of these Trick Room teams, right? Along with Galarian Moltres has some use there. It can give it electric immunity, you know, as a good pivot option. But overall, Landers has been worthy of the S tier title. Great attack stat. Is also relatively bulky. Just have to watch out for Urshifu, which is why they run Terra Water most of the time. All right. Vivillon, Tailwind, Sleep Powder, Rage Powder. I get it. Does it matter? No, but I'll still put in the C tier. Dragology, don't use this thing. Chestnut has some Iron Defense Body Press gimmick, but I can find a bunch more options that can do that better, like Hisui and Gutra. But it's still okay. At least it has something against Urshifu. Greninja? I don't know if we need to use this thing. Does it do anything? Like, they nerfed Protean relatively hard. I don't know if I want to do anything with this thing. Do I really say don't use? I'm gonna get flamed in the comments. I don't think it's that good. I generally... I know I've seen it like once in a tour, but that's it. I think it's not that good. Alright, Talonflame. It's still okay. I think Tailwind with Will-O-Wisp, you know, hard-hitting Brave Bird is still very, very good. You know, the other Tailwind users are preferred, of course, but at the very least, Gale Wings has given it some priority, right? At least the beginning of the turn. But Talonflame has seen its better days, right? I think, you know, you might even just bump it down into like almost the C tier, but at least right now, at the time, I can still merit a B tier slot. It's still like a pretty good option. Is it? I'm thinking about this. Do I say C tier? Like, is it as bad as some of these guys, right? That's the ultimate question I have to ask. It's almost, right? I want to say it's like low B tier. Let's just say low B tier and just end it at that. All right. Okay, now let's go down. Oh, we still got a few left here, so let's keep going here. Okay, actually, so we did a little bit of a pause break in the video. So what I did was I noticed that it was getting a little bit too long, so I went ahead and scoured the rest of the mons and just dumped a little bit more into the D tier. the don't use tiers. So we got Scovillain, Veluza, Dudunspark, Rabska, Houndstone, Espathra, Arboliva, Quaquaval, oh my goodness, I can't remember this one at the moment. The poison thing, the poison fire thing, Mudsdale, Kilowattrel, Lurantis, and then these two Paradox Pokemon, Iron Treads and the Iron Thorns, right? So basically, they may have had some niche in previous formats, and maybe they still can have some niche in this format, but it's just not. It's just too hard to use, right? So like, why would you have to fight to use a niche Pokemon when you just have better options? So in my opinion, if you have to fight to use a niche, whereas like these options actually already like have a niche, then just don't use these, right? So now we can actually just continue. So the Klefki, I think, is again another niche prankster user. You get screens, you get Thunder Wave, you get Trick Room, which is the one thing that it can do as opposed to the other prankster mons. So you got that going for it. Had some decent results in Regulation C, but I just don't think this format is the right one for it at the moment. But it had a good run, but it still can be used, of course. Hawlucha, same idea. Again, C tier, fighting typing, unburden, outspeed everything, and then just damage things. Kind of like the Sneasler idea, but still at the same time, could be good. But why would you use it for a fighting type? You can just use like Urshifu or Iron Hands, for example, right? Hisuian Gudra, very good Pokemon. I would say, within the middle of the B tier. If it gets Shelter setups, it can just body press things to death. It has Heavy Slam. It's extremely bulky. Usually can be good on those, Cresselia teams. Also put on Grimmsnarl Screens teams, making it hard to break. That being said, easily taunted. Requires a few turns to set up. You're a little bit passive in that time being. So just keep that in mind. And for that reason, still a B tier as opposed to, the strong A tier options, but still a very, very good Pokemon this time around. I definitely like the Hisuian variant over the regular variant for sure. Sylveon, again, the one thing that Sylveon has going for it as opposed to like a Fluttermane is that it's bulkier. But that being said, you could put it in Trick Room. I don't think it's that great in it. Why not? You're gonna have to argue something, over Fluttermane to use something like this. I think I gave you the argument already. The fact that it's bulkier, so there's its niche. You do get, again, Yawn Pressure, which is something that Fluttermane can't give you. So if that's something you're going for on your team in particular, then, there it is. Toxapex, another one with a niche. Again, something that can be used against the Urshifu, but just doesn't have any, like, major results to its name. But if one were to, like, try and explore it, it could be good. But in the meantime, like, it does have that Urshifu niche, but that's really about it. Other than that, it's not so great. Oranguru, pretty good on those Trick Room teams. Good Trick Room setter, has those instruct plays, where you're just clicking Eruption again. And then at the same time, you're very bulky in general, so making it difficult to remove. So good B tier option. I think Cresselia outclasses it for sure. Serena, another one, again, has some results to its name already. Kind of like the Furgraph, where you're just using Queenly Majesty to deny priority moves. Maybe at some point it can work its way to the B tier, but other than that, Rillaboom is just a better option. Or Furgraph is the better option if you're trying to deny priority moves. But it has the results to its name a little bit, so for that, I do give it in the C tier. It can be used, but I just feel like those two are just better options if you want to use a grass type or you want to deny priority. Mimikyu had, again, I do like it. We did a video on it before. I think it's definitely worthy of the B tier slot. So like, again, another Ghost Fairy type other than Fluttermane. Does get access to Trick Room. Does have a priority move, which means it can work with Chien-Pao. You can, Disguise is very good in terms of like being a reliable Trick Room center. You put Fake Out plus a Mental or Mimikyu, Trick Room is going up 99% of the time. Okay, so for that reason, I do like it. It definitely merits a B tier slot in that sense, and it's a fairy type. Lycanroc, just like Tyranitar, like again, Sand just hasn't really gotten its foot in this format at the moment. The other two weathers, even the snow teams outclass it. at the moment with the Articuno Abomasnow, but I still think it can be used. Like, I still think Sand with Dondozo is still okay if one to like try and use it, you know, just like it was used in Regulation C. But that's pretty much the only team at the moment that can really utilize the Sand duo as far as like another good, strong offensive fast core. But other than that, you know, you get Endeavor plays. Yes, you can KO things after the Sand chip. You're fast. You can outspeed the format because of Sand Rush. You get Rock Slide spam. So, you know, you do get the niche tier slot in that sense. All right, I don't know about this Decidueye. I don't know. Does this thing have a niche? I'm not even sure. I'm just gonna... All right, we'll put it here for now. I don't know if I can put it in the D tier just yet. I think it's like, eh. All right, this one, Dazzling. Just like, again, Furrygraph and Serena. So you got that going for it. Water typing, not too bad, but that's really all that it has going for it. I feel like the other two options are better than it. Oh my goodness, Dreadnought and Barrascuda. Okay, 2 Rain Sweepers. Like, again, they were pretty okay in like previous formats, but is there any reason to use them now? I don't think so. I think the what's that thing called? The Basculegion just outclasses both of them in terms of, you know, the dominant Rain Sweeper. So, you know, is there really a niche for these two? Maybe, but I'm gonna put them in the don't use tier. You know, again, you could argue again, like they could be niche because they are in the Rain team, but like just use Basculegion. Why would you use these two at the moment? Corviknight, Tailwind Setter. I'm still like a believer in Corviknight, right? I don't think people have explored Corviknight to its fullest in Regulation D. That being said, its better days are behind it at the moment, until like the power creep solves itself. But still, a good steel type. Steel Flying is very good typing. You get ground immunity, Tailwind support, Iron defense, body press stuff. You know, you get bulk up plays. So Corviknight still gonna be within the meta if one were to like try and use it in exploit. Indeedee, definitely within the A tier. Great Pokemon, great redirector, very bulky. Rocky helmet sets are running around to try and really put pressure on the Chien Pals and break that sash. You get Follow Me, Helping Hand plays, of course. You get Trick Room, and then just overall one of the best all-around support Pokemon. I think it's definitely worthy of this A tier slot. Or even like a high B tier. It's just a really, really good option at the moment. And then, Pincurchin. How did I miss this one? Yeah, Electric Terrain could be funny and nice. Is it worth it? No, I think it's still going down. You're just making the opposing Iron Hand stronger. Rillaboom. Oh man. Like, I almost want to put it in the S tier. Like, can I put it in the S tier? I think it's too good, man. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the S tier, man. Like, even the fact that it lost Grassy Glide, the fact that this is still an S tier Pokemon, just goes to show you how strong it was, right? Imagine this thing got Grassy Glide, Urshifu usage. All right. Fake Out, Wood Hammer, U-Turn, Knockoff or Stomping Tantrum, Grassy Terrain, of course, for good longevity recovery. Very bulky. You know, just a very, very good offensive threat. You know, it's your check to Urshifu, of course. Also, Wood Hammer one-shots Fluttermane. You know, for that matter, it's a great option without a doubt. Grimmsnarl, use a little bit more in this format than previous one, right? So I do like screens. I think, you know, those Goodra screens teams are very, very good. Moltres screens are very, very good. It has been used a lot more this format than other formats. Fluttermane, you know, puts pressure on it, of course, as do like some of the other steel types, but you know, Parting Shot and Thunder Wave are still very, very good moves. Still, Fake Out is a very good move on Grimmsnarl. B tier for sure. It's a good defensive Pokemon. Hatterene, another good, solid Trick Room user, good Trick Room setter. Indeedee Hatterene, the classic combo. You know, Life Orb, Dazzling Gleam hurts. Of course, the main thing is that it lost Expanding Force, as we all know in this generation. But it's still a very good mod. Psychic, you know, puts pressure on Amoonguss. You know, Magic Bounce also is a very timely, very useful ability. But overall, a very, very strong, slow special attacker, which is what you want in a Trick Room Sweeper. Stonejourner, C tier, very niche. Again, helps your ally do damage and has Wide Guard, and that's about it. You know, it's a good Pokemon for that, those two roles. And there's no one really like Stonejourner. So, you know, it does have that niche going for it. Dragapult, without a doubt, I think it's a good A tier Pokemon right now, especially those Farigiraf Dragapult teams with Qianpao. Very, very strong. You're the fastest Pokemon if there's no Regieleki. So in that sense, yeah, choice band sets hurt a lot with Qianpao. Dragapult will always be relevant within the meta as long as it is the fastest dragon, in my opinion. All right, finally, now we're down to the Urshifus. Okay, I don't know which one is which, so I'm gonna say this is the fighting one. And if it is, I'm going to say it's a B tier dark fighting. You pin the Cresselia slot quite a bit, but Terrassalization and Fluttermane, you know, really put the hampers on this thing. So, but it's still a good one, right? Wicked Blow still hurts a lot. The other one, on the other hand, Surging Strikes, with the Qianpao combination, is without a doubt S tier. Of course, this is you know, what teams try to counter when team building. You know, they always try to have an Urshifu check Rocky. This is the reason why Rocky Helmet is the #1 used item in Regulation D. For this reason, Urshifu, okay? That is the main reason. It is the main reason why some of these mods are in the niche tier, okay? Urshifu, right? The fact that teams have to respect you, you know, when team preview happens, or even when team building, you're an S tier Pokemon, without a doubt. You know, bulky Mystic Water sets are prevalent, and, you know, they're made to survive Dazzling Gleam from the Fluttermane. And then, you know, they just do relatively well under Tailwind. Rain Dance will enable it to do more damage. Terra Water, Mystic Water, just does so much damage overall. Glacier, listen, I understand it can get intimidated to death, but, you know, it's still a very, very good Pokemon. Still a very good sweeper. It's even better than Dynamax, but of course there's no Dynamax. I think Ursaluna is the better Trick Room sweeper, right? But that being said, does have a better special defense stat. Okay, and if it got an ice move that didn't miss, it would definitely be in the A tier. But other than that, it's still very, very good. Look at its bulk, right? Like, if you just look at Glacier, we had a Glacier team that won a tour, right? Look at this, 100, 145, 130, 110. This is a very, very good Pokemon. Then base speed 30. The Amoonguss will speed tie it, unfortunately, but that's just something that you have to live with. But still, very, very good Trick Room sweeper. You can almost argue it for the A tier. This Spectre team is rising because of Grimmsnarl Moltres stuff, okay? It can be used still, you know, Snarl, fast Will-O-Wisp, you know, Taunt User, Shadow Ball, Grimnade Boost are something that you have to be aware of. Nasty Plot, of course, is a threat, you know, so you got that niche going for you. You're slightly bulkier than Fluttermane, of course. You have a little bit more special attack, okay? You are slower, but, you know, in that sense, you still have a decent support role, so for that reason you can be within this niche tier for sure. Regieleki, man, okay, like it just hasn't really found that right team just yet, but it's still like a good mon, right? So I'm gonna put in the low B tier. Unfortunately, the nerf to Transistor really hampered it a little bit, and then there's just so much Landorus around, and then, you know, Iron Hands is just a better electric Pokemon to use at the moment. But that being said, you know, people have used it. It does have some results here and there, but not that much, right? So tough times have fallen on Aleki. That being said, you are still the fastest Pokemon, you know, besides the booster energy stuff. So in that sense, sure, can be good on the rain teams, right? Especially when you run like Modest Thunder Aleki, which is going to hurt. But, you know, I think it'll be used a little bit more when you have Kyogre running around. But until then, no. Regidrago. Okay, again, another very, very good Pokemon right now, especially the Tailwind stuff. You know, let me just move this aside. Like, Regidrago is just also the best it's ever been, right? Sword and Shield, they never really could do anything because of Dynamax and Zacian, and now that both of them are out of the way, Regidrago has been getting very, very good results, and good for it. Good for Regidrago, honestly, right? Dragon Energy Tailwind is something that needs to be respected. Sometimes teams just don't really have a way to deal with it, and now you add Farigiraf on these teams, so now all of a sudden the Regidrago can just literally almost 4-0 your entire team if you're not prepared, right? So for that reason, it commands a lot of offensive pressure, and then now it also runs Terra Steel, Terra Blast at the same time. You know, you could even run, you know, Earth Power on this thing against the Heatrans that can kind of wall it. So it's got a lot going for it right now. It's a very, very good B tier option. I can almost put it in the A tier without a doubt. I think it's very, very good. But that being said, you know, I think the B tier is appropriate as of this moment, in my humble opinion. Okay. Stantler, you got Intimidate, you got Trick Room, and that's all about it. You know, you're the only one that can really do that. So yeah, Cleaver, you know, Hazards, you know, fast, not really that fast, but still like relatively strong. You know, it has some play in those hyper offensive teams with Tailwind. So, you know, I do think it's a decent monster. I'll put it in the B tier. Sneasler, another one, you know, again, does need the Unburden boost, you know, from either Psychic Seeds Indeedee or Rillaboom. As of late, it has been preferred on those Indeedee teams, which, you know, makes a lot of sense. You get redirection support. Can be good. Dire Claw is very, very nice. Fake Out, great Fake Out user. You know, just needs to be explored a little bit more, but it has some results already to its name. Good Pokemon. I like it a lot. This one is very niche. Again, the Enamorous, it relies on its ability to do well, right? You know, because of the contrary stuff. So you have to like Scary Face or Eerie Impulse it like from your own Thundurus, right? But you have to argue something that it can do, you know, versus like using a Flutter Mane, for example. Like I can just get immediate damage pressure from Flutter Mane versus like this thing I need at least a turn to try and set it up. Okay, so does have that niche for it, of course, but I think Flutter Mane, of course, is just a better fairy. This one, I can put it in C tier. It's pretty good in Trick Room, and you do have immunity against Amoonguss, so that's also very, very nice, and it does have some decent bulk. Can run an Assault Vest set. I think it's pretty decent. Overquill, you do get Intimidate. You do get, you know, Swift Swim. It does decent damage, I would say. The bulk is okay. So, you know, but you know, if you're gonna put this on like these rain teams, I feel like again the Basky Legion and the Thunders is just a better combination overall. So, you know, C tier. But Intimidate is nice. Ursaluna. Okay, do I want to put this in the A tier or the S tier? I think we can, for now. Actually, yeah, I think I can just put this in the A tier. You know, I'm not gonna say S tier just yet. Of course, it's still a very, very good Pokemon, but it's just not as splashable around these guys. These are like the glue. You know, how do I say this? The staples to a lot of these teams, right? Whereas Ursaluna is something like you build around, right? So it's a very, very strong, consistent option. Great, you know, with Cresselia Trick Room teams. Facade hurts a lot. You do need a turn to set it up, which, you know, you can play around and take advantage of course. At first, Ursaluna was like, oh, this thing's going to be good. Then people like stopped using it because, you know, it wasn't doing great. Then people started using it again. And now it's like super, super strong. You know, Cress, Ursaluna, Iron Hands, and Amoonguss, that's like a very, very good starting core, right? That's, if you had to build a Trick Room team, I would just use that. All right, Meowscarada, it's like budget Urshifu, right? It always crits just like it, but it just gets outsped by Flutter Mane. Iron Bundle, this ain't the format for it, but it still has some niche in that sense. Skeledirge, same idea, you know, can be used against Dondozo a little bit, but other than that, why would you use this over something like a Heatran, for example, right? Farigiraf, okay, here we go. This thing is on the rise and taking the meta by storm, just because of its ability, man. Like, the fact that you can deny priority moves just really hampers this Dragonite Chien-Pao idea. And then at the same time, you also have Trick Room, you're very bulky, and then you pretty much just say no to about a good half of the format. I wouldn't say like half of the format, but you know, its ability is really good on those, either those Tailwind teams as like a good answer to Trick Room teams, or you can use it on a Trick Room team where you can, you know, stop teams from using priority moves against your Trick Room options, right? So this way they can do the job they need to do in the Trick Room. Great Pokemon right now. I like it. Dondozo, yo man, like this thing just always comes back, man. It always comes back. You can never escape this thing. I can't. Oh, here's the Tatsugiri. Yeah, they're together a pair. Like Dondozo, Tatsugiri, man. Like for a while they just weren't around in Regulation D, but then slowly teams started to pick up on it, especially like, you know, Dondozo Glimora teams with Tornadus and Urshifu. Where is Glimora actually? I think we're gonna also put it here within the B tier. So like that's the team that Dondozo has been having the most success right now, right? With those Tornadus, Glimora, Flutter Mane teams with Urshifu, right? And then the 6th slot is like your filler flex slot, can be a lot of different options. And then Glimora again, you know, with hazards, you know, bulky assault vest sets, you know, poison damage, you know, spread damage overall. It's actually really, really nice. So yeah. Oh man, Palafin. There was a time when this was the S tier mon, right? Still a good option. Like, it's still pretty good, but tell me why I would use this over Urshifu. Well, you know, you get rid of your fighting weakness. Mono water is good, better defensively. You know, I understand that, which is why, you know, I can still put in the B tier option. Can do well if someone were to like explore and use it, but Urshifu is just too good right now. You might even drop the Palafin to the C tier, but I'll respect it and put it as a low B tier option. Reverum, you know, shift gear is pretty good. And that's about it. That's what it's got going for it. Orthworm, you know, people were a little bit optimistic because, you know, you can combo this thing with like Landers and just reuse some of that old Orthworm core from Regulation D, but it just really hasn't gotten its foot off within the format yet. And I don't think it will as of this moment, but it can be good. Just needs someone to find the right team for it, but it's not there yet. Mousehold, great support Pokemon. You know, again, with the Friend Guard, it's always going to be very, very good. I like this with Moltres, actually. Like, this can help against the Flutter Mane matchup relatively well, and then now you got Friend Guard to make the Moltres do less damage. You can set up Nasty Plot, too. You know, I think Annihilate, Mousehold, you know, again, was good, but now because there's Ursh and because there's more flying type options and there's still Flutter Mane, it takes a hit a little bit. And now that, you know, again, there's Tornadus, of course. Yeah, but definitely Mousehold is still used a little bit, you know, on some teams. It's still like pretty good, I would say. Back Scalper, in my opinion, dude, this thing is still pretty good. A tier, you know, anytime you have a priority ice move against a format where like there's a genie on every single team, Amoonguss, Rillaboom, all weak to ice types, Back Scalper, very, very good. Glaive Rush does a ton of damage. Used more on those balanced teams, you know, with a Fire, Water, Grass Core and then some Tailwind user. But Back Scalper, still a very, very good option. Use it. Palmot, the Revival Blessing stuff makes it a niche tier mon. You know, I know our friend Conkeldor has been using this on Dondozo for a long time. I don't know if he's still using that, but you know, again, niche tier. This one, you get Tailwind, you get Intimidate, you get Fake Out, you get not Fake Out, you get Parting Shot, but that's all you got going for it. This one, Flamigo, I don't know, if your name is not no Wolf Click, I don't know if you can really use this thing at the moment. Garganical, another one, like Garganical could be good. It was much better in like, you know, other previous formats for sure, but actually, I think it's still a B tier mon. Like, Garganical is still good. You know, Salt Cure, Recover, Wide Guard. Like, what's not to like about it? Yes, there's Urshifu. Okay. Yes, I understand there's other things that, you know, there's Rillaboom. There's Heatran. I understand that, which is why it has dropped a little bit. So, but it's still like good. So I'll still put it in the B tier. Bramblegas. All right, this one has that niche. You know, Bramblegas has one thing going for it, and that is this ability called Wind Rider, right? Where you get your attack raised by 1 if you're under Tailwind, or if you're hit by a wind move. So something like Heat Wave, right? Where Heatrans want to click Heat Wave and against Bramble Blast, but then that'll just boost its attack, right? Like 115 attack, not too bad. 90 speed is pretty decent under Tailwind. The bulk is not so great, so you have to EV it to, I guess, like try and survive something. Yeah, man, I don't know, but that's pretty much it. But again, it has that niche. It has a niche. Goldango. Like, okay, man. Like, it's still one of the best Pokemon to use. You get Amoonguss immunity. Make It Rain does so much damage. Choice Specs. Tailwind does so much. Okay, you got Ghost moves against Flutter Mane for that matter. It's just a good Pokemon. Especially, like, partnered with Amoonguss. you have to get to the Amoonguss first before you get to the Goldango, unless you use a spread move. It's still very strong. Oh man, this one, like, again, dropping it down to the C tier. You know, even Garchomp has a better niche than this thing. You know, the fighting typing ruined it, and a lot more flying types are running around, which means the Great Tusk has lost a little bit of value, but it still can do well on some teams, like your own Tailwind team for that matter, or your own Murkrow Sun team. It can do something, but it's just, I don't know if it's worth it this time around. This one, the Brute Bonnet. Again, you got Rage Powder, you got Spore Pressure, you got Bullet Seed. Rocky Helmet could do something against the Urshifu, of course. Again, the Dark typing just doesn't do it as well as Amoonguss. So, you know, but it still has a niche. It's still pretty good. Oh, man, I almost forgot this was a Pokemon. Sandy Shocks. I don't know, man. Do I want to say don't use? I don't even know what kind of niche it would have at the moment. I truthfully do not know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna put in don't use for now. Screamtail? Niche tier. Again, you get a bunch of good support moves. You're very, very bulky. We already established that in Regulation C. But I don't know too many teams that would want to use this over something like Cresselia or Fluttermane. Mischievous. Fluttermane, of course, you know, again, S tier, very, very strong. Can be also fast. Booster Energy does a ton of damage. I don't need to talk about Fluttermane. We already know it's like S tier. Slitherwing. This is Sierra Dawn's favorite Mon. I guess it can do something on some of those Sun teams, but that's really it. I'll give it that. But I don't know. It's like Sandy Shocks. I don't know what it can really do besides that. Roaring Moon. Okay, Roaring Moon, another one. I think it's an A tier Mon. Is it A? Is it as good as like Dandos and some of these guys? I want to say yes. I want to say it's like high B, low A. Like Dragon Dance just lets you outspeed the format, and then, you know, partner it with like Intimidate and a Fake Out Mon, and it can do relatively well, as already established in previous formats. And it's fast too, right? So you got that going for it. So in that sense, you know, you're also a dark typing. I think in some cases you might be a better option than the Moltres. So, you know, do with that with what you will. This one, you got Acid Spray shenanigans. You got Sludge Wave, you know, next to a Steel type. But that's really all you got going for it. Iron Hands, without a doubt, to me, belongs in the S tier. Top 5, in my opinion, right? Fake Out, very bulky, Heavy Slam against Fluttermane. You know, Wild Charge for the Urshifu, Drain Punch for, you know, basically half these mons. You know, you can pin Chien-Pao, Terra Normal, Dragonite, you know, the Steel type on the Heatran. You can really do something against. And then, of course, the Electric move against the Tornadus. You can also do, like, Swords Dance sets on some Trick Room teams. We use that. So, yeah. Oh, man, this one. Yeah, it's got Tailwind. It can do Snarl stuff. Draco Meteor. I don't know. Nah. Iron Bundle. Still a very good mon. Icy Wind. Freeze Dry. Very, very good against a lot of these mons. Look how many things take damage from Freeze Dry. Like Urshifu, Rillaboom, Landorus, Tornadus, Amoonguss, right? Dragonite if it doesn't Terra, right? That's half of the S tier mons, right? And you can outspeed them if you have a booster energy anyway with some of these guys. So, yeah, man, Bundle's still pretty good. In some cases, it's better than the Urshifu on some teams. You know, it's just a very, very good Pokemon overall, all around. Don't use this one. Like, I think you get Trick Room, but, you know, again, tell me why I would use this over something like Fleming, besides the fact that it looks cooler. Tinglu has fallen on hard times because of Urshifu and Rillaboom. That being said, the ability allows it to, you know, again, neuter special attackers that are still running around. You got something against Heatran. You could do something against Chien-Pao. You got a Steel move against Fluttermane. Still pretty good against Chi-Yu. Speaking of Chi-Yu, I think we're also going to put Chi-Yu over here within the A tier, actually. Still very, very good. But like I said, the entrance of Rillaboom and Urshifu have dropped the the Tinglu quite a bit, I would say. Now to the Chiyu, still a very, very good combination with Fluttermane that makes both of them, you know, do like a bunch of damage. Some cases it's better than a Heatran for a fire type. Good, strong special attacker. What's not to like about Chiyu? It's an A tier. We already know that. Wo Chien, you know, all format since Regulation D. Just, again, I think it's even worse in Regulation D than C. But, you know, if you want to play the stall game, you have that going for it. But I think it's harder. But that being said, it still can do something. I just don't know. I don't have any faith in it. Tinkaton, like Thunder Wave, Gigaton Hammer, Fake Out, sure. I don't really know if I can really use it, but there it is. You can really tell I'm struggling with some of these options. Like, I so badly want to put some of them in the D tier, but like I'm still like giving them some respect a little bit. Armourouge is a very good Pokemon. Along with Indeedee, definitely A tier worthy. Expanding Force, Life Orb hurts a lot. Wide Guard is better this format as well. But still, again, those Indeedee Armourouge teams with, you know, Torkoal and Ursaluna, along with Hisui and Lilligant, that is the premier Trick Room team. You know, it just does so well into a lot of different things. It's better this format, actually, just because, you know, there's more things weak to psychic damage and there's less dark types running around. There's no Tinglu, so that's why Armourouge is definitely better this format, in my opinion. We're getting close to the end, thank God. These are not legal, so we're not even going to talk about them. Ceruledge, again, you know, Heatran is just a better Flash Fire mon. You have, you know, a priority Ghost move, you know, could be good with Chien-Pao, but again, you know, tell me why I would use this as opposed to Heatran. I kind of just gave you the answer already. Like, you need a physical attacker. You got a Ghost move for Fluttermane, of course. You know, Terra Grass is still pretty good on this thing. It can be used. Like, I'm not saying it's not playable. Of course, it's still good. But I just think Heatran just has surpassed it at the moment. And then Toadscruel, you got Trick Room, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't even know if I can even put this, you know, I want to put this in the D tier, and then these are just not, oh, we have Kingambit here. Still pretty good, man. Like, Defiant, good steel type coverage. Sucker Punch hurts a lot. Still pretty good on some teams. Has taken a hit, of course, because there's an Urshifu running around. But overall, still can get the job done with, you know, Sucker Punch pressure. But this is it. I think this is correct in terms of our S tier. And A tier, even this is still pretty good. Is there anything here that I can either bump up to the A tier? No, I don't think so. I think this is actually okay, given the format at the moment. C tier. Can anything actually move up? I don't think so. I think this is pretty appropriate. There's everything here is just better options, as far as like what they can offer. Can I move anything here into the C tier? Does it even matter is the question. Let me see. All right, maybe the Treasures of Ruin Pokemon have some use, you know, with Trick Room. I don't think they're like don't use, but all right, well, I guess we'll respect them a little bit. They still have like decent stats, but I don't know. Explosion gimmicks, I guess, with this guy. What else? All right, we're just scouring here. All right, this one has like water compaction. I guess you have that niche for Urshifu, but I don't think that's good enough to make it like quote unquote niche. This one maybe you can put here just because of water absorb, but that's still like not enough. All right, we're gonna keep on looking. Venomoth. All right. Yeah, I think this is it. I think everything stays here the way it is. Some of these maybe you can fight for and argue to like be in the C tier, but like I don't know. But yeah, this is it. This is our final tier list. So like look at this. So you pretty much see all these Pokemon on all your teams, right? Are on high ladder for sure. And then A tier, these guys, you know, they have teams specifically built with them, especially within their archetype, I would say. Then these B tier teams, like the best ones, of course, are the Basque Legion, Regidrago stuff, along with like Farigiraf. And then you'll also see the occasional Hisui and Gudra. And then everything else is still like pretty good. You know, they have like results already. It's just like, I don't know. The other options are just a little bit better. I was pretty generous with my B tier actually. And then other than that, yeah, this is still pretty good. All right, so we'll leave the tier list as it is right now. Let me know what you think. Let me know, in terms of what you would argue if something moves up or moves down, or if you've got a niche. Let me know in the comments section. I love to argue. It's just all good, friendly banter at the end of the day. But this is it. This is our pre-Worlds tier list. All right, so let me know what you think. We'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.